Good morning, Facebook. It is Tuesday morning. I wanted to come on and share a little motivation and hopefully inspiration for you. And some things that I worked on with some clients yesterday. And I think that hopefully this can help some of you that get frustrated when you think that your weight loss is stalling. Okay. So first of all, we have a body fat scale that we use here at the gym. It's very accurate. And it shows us it shows us all kinds of information. It shows us the person's body weight, of course. It shows us body fat in pounds, and then also body fat percentage. And it shows us muscle mass in pounds, as well as showing us the metabolic rate and how a person's metabolic rate or their ability to burn fuel or calories, it shows us that rate and whether it's going up and down. The cool thing about this tool is we can see a history. So we usually check clients about, ones that are like really focused on this. We usually check them about every 6 weeks. And so that gives us enough time for them to make the habit changes they need and start adding, maybe some extra movement into their day, eating well. And 6 weeks allows us enough time to see some really good changes. And it also, this machine is amazing because it allows us to see exactly what's going on. So I'm going to tell you about 2 clients that I tested yesterday, and how discouraged they were at first until we looked at their statistics and found out that things were actually going just fine. So I know a lot of people think that weight loss, first of all, the term weight loss is maybe not exactly the term that you want to be using, because I could chop off your arm and you'd lose weight, right? We're actually looking to lose fat, not just weight. Because if we lose muscle, we've lost weight. However, muscle is our very metabolically active tissue, and it's what causes our metabolism to soar, okay? So if we lose muscle in this process of trying to lose weight, then we're actually setting ourselves up for failure down the road as our metabolism slows down because we're losing muscle. Then we're going to start realizing it's harder and harder for us to lose that weight on the scale. Okay. So the only reason I tend to use the term weight loss is because that's a common term that people understand. However, more correctly, we should be using the term fat loss. Okay. So I had these 2 clients come and, weigh in yesterday, and they have both been these were private clients, and they've really been focused for about 6 weeks. They're just, we go through these ups and downs. People tend to think that this project of, getting fit and getting stronger is linear. Like we're just going to keep getting fitter and stronger and fitter and stronger. But we have to keep in mind that life happens, right? Things get busy. You might go out of town. You might get an injury, an illness. Maybe you just go through a low spot and you find that you're stressed and you're eating more. Maybe you, especially with menopausal women, maybe your sleep is messed up and you're snacking more to compensate for being fatigued because of lack of sleep. There could be so many things that go on. And I think that's one thing where people lose a lot of motivation, because they feel like, in their mind, they should just be losing 2 pounds a week for a year and lose 100 pounds or whatever it is. But we have to factor in, if you're a good coach or you are being realistic about it, if you're coaching yourself, we have to factor in life events. So usually, like with some of my clients, I'll say, okay, they'll get to this point where they're like, oh, I've just kind of fallen off. Maybe they're coming to all their sessions. They're just not doing the things in their daily life that's to encourage, the fat loss that they want or the muscle gain that they want. So often we'll just hit a reset. We'll say, okay, what does your next 6 weeks look like? Are you going to be in town? Do things look, pretty smooth sailing for you? Let's really focus for the 6-week chunk. We break it down a little bit. And that way it's not like we're for a year. Our goal is, 30 pounds in a year, and a year is so far away that we can lose our drive and lose our motivation. So we hone it all down. We say, can you focus for 6 weeks? And let's I'll prescribe, this is what I want you to do on, your 2 or 3 days of workouts at home. And these are what we're going to be doing on the workouts here. We want you to be walking on these days. We talk about their food. So we get them dialed in. So they have 6 weeks. They have a plan of what they're going to do every day. and what habits they're focusing on. Then we get them on the scale. So these gals, these both were, let's see, one of them had lost a bunch of weight like in 2019. She came to me in September of 2019. By December, she had lost, or January, I think it was, she had lost about 33 pounds. She was doing awesome. Then in December, she screwed up her knee skiing. So she had like massive, all the knee surgeries, the ACL, the MCL, the whole thing. But yet she still managed to lose weight while she couldn't be in the gym. We did work out in the gym until her surgery date, mid-February. And we just did what we could do. And there was actually quite a bit that we could do for her. So that's one little side note for you. Is just because you're injured, don't throw it all away. There are definitely things that you can do. And if you take that mindset, rather than letting that particular injury like derail everything, take the mindset that I'm just going to do what I can do and I'm going to do it really well. I have a client, I'm going to derail just a little bit too on that topic. I have a client that texted me last night. She has shingles, and she was on such a great roll when she started with us a few months ago, like 3 months ago, and she was doing awesome and she was loving it. And then she got some illness, and then she took a medication, and then she got hives, and then it was like this whole thing, one after the other. And then she got back into it, and she was doing it again, and she was getting into it, and now she has shingles. So I told her, don't get discouraged. You can, she's probably not going to want to work out with shingles, never had it, but I'm assuming that sweat would make them sting. She's probably very uncomfortable. So I told her, we can totally focus in on your food. We can educate you, and we can get you dialed in on your food. That's worth a lot. In fact, I'll tell you girls that your food is worth 80% of the picture. So while she's off with shingles for a little bit, we're going to hone in, and we are going to get her food dialed in so that she has those habits that she's building while her body can't be moving. Okay. So little side note on that. I'm getting to the clients. Okay. So client number 1, she did really great. Then she had that surgery, but she still was able to come to the gym from December. I think December 9th was the day she injured herself, and February 15th was the day that she had surgery. Okay. And then she had to be out of the gym for a while. I can't remember how long now, probably at least 6 weeks during physical therapy. Okay. She continued to lose weight this whole time. Then she got back to the gym after therapy. And then this past winter came along. So now we're in 2021. Now this past winter came along and she started putting some weight on, probably because her knee's doing awesome. But she is just a little less active, as far as like, she can't go out and do the trails yet. She'll be able to do that this summer. But last summer she couldn't be quite as active and doing quite as aggressive activities as she could before, because she still had like a full year of having to kind of baby the knee to some degree. So then winter came and she wasn't able to get out on the ice and walk and all that. So she put some weight back on over the winter. And she was kind of getting close to where, like I said, we started working in September, then October, November, she had, I don't remember her exact weight, but she was down to I think she was actually down to mid-80s, somewhere in there, in November of 2019. Okay. Then a full year goes by and things derail her. We come back, we focus for 6 weeks. And I don't remember where she weighed in when we measured her in February. But when we measured her the other day, she was really discouraged. She's like, that your scale has to be wrong, because I know I've been losing weight. She has not been doing any sugar. She's been being able to get a little more exercise, going for walks now that the weather's nice, and she was really discouraged. However, when we looked at our, I told you the scale tells us all kinds of things. So when we looked at the scale, she had actually gained weight. And, of course, with women, this fluctuates. So she had gained, her weight had increased by 0.7 pounds, so less than 1 pound over the last 6 weeks that we really honed in and focused on this nutrition and getting her a little more active. And we had changed her workouts in the gym a little bit more bigger movements, okay, which would burn more calories. Okay, however, the good news, she did put on 0.7 pounds, but of that weight that she gained, she had gained 2.9 pounds of muscle. Now, this muscle, like I said before, is a very metabolically active tissue. That muscle, if she can maintain that muscle by continuing to lift heavy weights and eating her protein, excuse me, that muscle is going to continue to fuel itself with her fat loss. Okay, so not only did she gain 2.9 pounds of muscle, she lost 3.5 pounds of fat. Yet when she stepped on the scale, she was so discouraged. She's like, no way. But however, when we take that number and we dig into it and we can see exactly what's going on, we can realize here that she actually lost 2.1% body fat since February. That's excellent. 1 to 2% a month is reasonable if you're really focused and you're hitting it. Excuse me, girl. Sorry. So while she was discouraged that the number on the scale, and we all know this, the number on the scale is not who you are. However, in our hearts, we are often like, but really, the scale says I gained weight. And we get discouraged. Digging into this, we see that she has no reason to be discouraged. Her weight will come off. And she lost inches. That's the other thing. I encourage you, if you don't have a scale like we have here, definitely take your measurements, because as your weight, as you're exchanging, so to speak, muscle for fat, you're going to be shrinking. So if all you have is a tape measure and a scale, definitely be using that tape measure, because even if your weight stays the same on your scale, if you are losing fat and you are gaining muscle, it might look even on the scale, right? However, when you measure things are going to be shrinking. Fat is fluffier than your muscle, right? So she lost 3.5 pounds of fluffy fat. She gained 2.9 pounds of dense muscle, and she lost 2% body fat. The other cool thing is we figured out with our scale is that her metabolic rate increased. And I did the math and figured out that her metabolic rate, meaning her ability to burn calories at rest, just sitting here, her metabolic rate increased by 40 calories per day. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but when we math it out, that equals 1,200 calories a month, which equals 1/3 of a pound a month that she would lose. 1/3 of a pound more calories 40 more calories a day equaling 1/3 of a pound, that she could lose in a month. Okay. So that's just if she sat here and was able to maintain that muscle. Okay. Now this totally motivates her now to be able to say, okay, I don't want to eat extra 40 calories if I'm, my metabolism is boosted, but what that's doing is working for her behind the scenes. And if she continues to gain muscle, if she can say, dude, I gained 2 pounds of muscle, that's really amazing. 2.9 pounds of muscle in a month and a half is great. So if she can use this as motivation to continue to build that muscle, she's going to increase her metabolic rate. We're going to see it on her printout, and it's going to show her metabolic rate is increasing. We can kind of get her a number to show her how much it's actually the strength training and eating her protein and keeping her muscle mass is helping her down the road, even though that scale says she gained 0.7 pounds. Do you see what I'm saying? That it's not always a stall if your scale is not moving. If you're doing the right things, if your scale's not moving and you've just been sitting around and eating how you've always eaten, it's probably not a great sign. But if you've been doing all the things, you're eating your protein, you're lifting weights that are heavy. It's really important to lift heavy weights as women because that's what builds the muscle. That muscle fuels itself with your fat stores. And it's like this snowball, okay? So she's doing awesome. And so what I did also is I took a picture of her and I compared her picture with some other pictures that I'd taken. And her picture is now getting close to comparing to where she was back in November of 2019, which is something else I recommend you do is take pictures. I like to take a picture from the front and the side and the back. And this one I was just comparing side pictures so she could see that her waist was starting to shrink in and her arms are getting smaller. She's getting closer to where she was in November. Now we could focus on the fact that it's like, oh, but I was so good and I was doing so great way back in November of 2019. But we also had a massive surgery and a whole year of having to limit, pardon me, the aggressiveness of her activity. So, that's life, like I said at the beginning. So don't get caught up in that. Be where you are today and focus forward. So, okay, let me tell you real quickly about client number 2. Okay, client number 2 has 6 children. Okay, she's a busy girl. She has a very, very lucrative business, keeps her extremely busy. It's pretty stressful. And she is amazing. And she also weighed in, increasing her weight by 0.7 pounds. Ironic that it was the same as client number 1. However, we knew she was changing shape. She knew she was thinning out here in her waist and just everything in general is getting smaller for her. So she gained 2 pounds of muscle. Okay. And she lost 2.7 pounds of fat. So, And it is overall, she lost 1.8% body fat. So they both really close to the same results that they had in 6 weeks. And I know this client has been eating really well. She's been sending me screenshots of her food and her macros, and she's doing amazing. And she has set up a home gym, so she's getting some workouts in on her off studio days. And she increased her metabolic rate by 32 calories a day. So again, this whole thing doesn't mean she's going to go and eat 32 more calories a day. If she's looking to lose weight, she's trying to be in a fat loss deficit. But this means that she could keep her calories the same as she's been, and she could continue to burn more fat, not only because she has muscle working for her, but because that metabolic rate has increased. So I want you to realize that it's not just the scale. If you don't have a fat loss scale like ours, then use a scale and use a tape measure at least to tell you, are things shrinking? If your size is shrinking, then you can be very sure that you're losing fat. You can't be 100% sure that you're gaining muscle, but you can tell, if you're feeling stronger, if you're lifting weights that are causing you to burn by about repetition number 10, they must feel heavy. 3-pound weights that you could do all day, it's not going to get you the muscle build. It's going to get you some stamina and some endurance, but it's not going to be able to build the kind of muscle that you may want if you want to be a girl that can go out and do hard things, or if you are somebody that really wants to focus on fat loss. And for women in particular, it is essential. The number one thing you should be doing is saving your muscle at all costs, which means building it through lifting heavy weights and eating enough protein to sustain that weight. Because as your estrogen declines, your ability to maintain your muscle is going to go bye-bye. So really important that becomes, it used to be back in the day that cardio was all we did, right? We did lots of cardio because we wanted to burn calories. But the deal is, now that we're, getting older, we're getting closer to menopause, it's essential that you do things to increase your strength. Okay. So, if you are somebody that wants to, we can schedule appointments. If you are not one of our clients, this is something that we do for our clients for free. Most gyms will charge you for this, but we do this for our clients for free. But people from the outside, we are happy to have you come and use the scale. There is a fee for it, but we'll also schedule you for a little, we can do whatever you want. We can do a goal setting session with you. We can sit you down, have you use the scale. Usually we do a 30-minute session, but we can expand that if somebody wants to do something a little more in detail. Usually that looks like, the goal setting session looks like you'll come in, you use the scale, we'll tell you what it means, we'll tell you the direction that you should go. Like, okay, this from what I'm seeing here, you need to do more of this, maybe less of this. And we'll do a quick little assessment of what you've been doing to this point and where you should go in the future. So that's a possibility. You can also schedule an hour session where we can get a little bit deeper and we can kind of talk about your food a little bit more. And, a little bit deeper of a session that will give you a little more direction. So let us know. Always just DM us if that's something you're interested in knowing where you are, because it's really difficult to tell if what you're doing is working if you don't have all the statistics to really make sure you're going in the right direction. Using the tools that we use, a much more information on how to intelligently map out our next steps for them with much more accuracy, because it can tell us exactly if what we've been doing is working, if it's not working, and then we don't waste time doing stuff that's not being effective for that particular client. Okay, I just do a little pause. I hope that you're motivated by that from the standpoint of, 1, that you learned that it's not just the scale, it's your scale and your tape measure. 2, that fat loss is not linear. And 3, that muscle is very valuable. And what your scale says is not always an indication of what's going on the inside. Okay, have a great day.